All right, if you need it, you need a moment, go ahead and quickly share it off your screen to get comfortable and get situated because it ain't going away now. So virtual presentation week, this is our third one today and our final one for today. And it's really going to be a good one. I want to first take a moment again to thank our sponsors. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. And we want to first thank you to our supporting sponsors, Virginia Assisted Living Association. They're on the call today, Senior Living Guide as well. And we want to thank our exhibiting sponsors, which are GenCare Senior Medical Center, Bayada, Aegis Seniors Sciences Corporation, Commonwealth Senior Living, Mako Medical. We do have somebody from Commonwealth Senior Living, Carlton Building Services, Comfort Keepers, and our one and only Morrison Living, which we're really grateful that they're a sponsor for this event and really looking forward to their presentation. Prime Plus Senior Centers, National Physiatry are our exhibiting sponsors. Our silver sponsor who is going to be speaking today is Next Chapter's Services, which we're really glad that they're our silver sponsor, and you will hear from them in just a moment. Caption Call is our gold sponsor, and our keynote sponsor is Anthem, and it's affiliate Health Keepers. So we're really excited and thankful for all of them for being our sponsors to put this event on. If it hadn't been for them, we would not be having this. So without further ado, Sean Taylor, if you'd be so kind to unmute yourself and share, you have the floor.
Hey, good afternoon. I guess almost good evening, everybody. As Micah said, my name is Sean Taylor. I'm the owner of Next Chapter Services. Before I start, Micah, I want to give you a big shout out. You've been working hard and putting this together. I can't wait to check out these presentations over the next few days. Next Chapter Services is a senior referral service here in the area, mostly in the southeastern part of Virginia, but we're picking up a little bit in Hampton, and I'm hoping to continue to grow that way. What we do is we help seniors looking for assisted living and independent living, but I won't bore you with that, as there are plenty companies that do what I do, both big and small. Everybody does an amazing job at it, so I'll just point out what we do here at Next Chapter Services. I'm more so a advocate than I am a placement service, and one of the ways how I do that is I actually move people in to their communities as a complimentary thing that we do. So not only do we find the perfect community for them, we actually move them in as a thank you, and then I continue to be their advocate there on out by checking on them 30 days and then 60 days and then 90 days, just making sure that they're comfortable and bridging the gap between them and the facilities or the communities that they've chosen. So that's basically what you get from me as an advocate. My background is a nurse. My company's been in this area for about three years now. And so I'm just happy to help seniors and to learn more about, the other services and how I can partner, because at the end of the day, if we all are in it for the seniors, then there's room for everybody. So Sean Taylor, Next Chapter Services, if you want to reach me, is just nextchapterva.com, or my number is 757-524-9709. Thanks for having me. And Sean Taylor, Next Chapter Services.
And feel free to chat your information in the chat as well. And for those of you that are joining us, please type in so Morrison Living knows where you're listening from or watching from. That'd be great. I will now turn it over to Miss Sadie, who will then probably turn it over to Phillip and Adam Grafton, who will be presenting. And now Micah will now mute himself and let them present.
Great. Well, it's great to be here. Micah, thanks so much for having us. I'll kick it off. My name is Adam Grafton. I'm the Vice President of Culinary for Morrison Living. It's great to be here, and I'm really proud to say, I've spent the last 21 years as a culinarian in senior living, and extremely proud of that. I love what I do, and I guess the most impactful thing for me is just knowing that we make a difference and can be the best part of someone's day every day. So, Phillip?
Thank you, Micah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Phillip Dopson. I'm the Vice President of Design and Retail for Morrison Living. Been with Compass the last 19 years and senior living the last 8, and have a real passion for trying to connect hospitality into senior living and bridge the gap from where we've been for so long and where we need to be to serve the future. So excited to speak with you today and share our ideas. So COVID has definitely forced us all to think differently. And we know there's a better way to do it, so we're going to help you find it today.
And so, as we've been engaging the next normal, definitely want to, as Phillip said, we really want to share our experiences, stories, innovations with everyone here today, really focus on those key areas that you see here that really relates to just the overall hospitality revolution, post-COVID, how we drive innovation and the new norm. So again, just excited to be here. We're really going to spend some time touching on these 4 areas. Love. There's a lot of great things here on this slide. I mean, really, it's about menu, how we dine, following those trends that we've seen through COVID, and really what's staying and around past COVID, post COVID. But really, if you really think about it, we've introduced so many different food solutions, menus, service solutions, and they're here to stay. One interesting part here, is, again, 21 years in senior living. And I remember as a chef 10 years ago, trying to implement grab and go and takeout. And really it was about our residents still, those large dining rooms, having, putting on their jackets and getting dressed up and going to dinner. And that's really changed. And unfortunately it took a pandemic to really, look at our residents looking at grab and go and takeout as an option. Since we introduced a lot of these varieties, they're definitely here to stay. We definitely see that, Phillip will speak to it later, but when we look at a design opportunity, we look at our large dining rooms that are, one large dining room, and that trend that we're seeing right now through design and food concepts of, chopping down that dining room and turning it into multiple dining venues. So seeing a lot of that, and even seeing the fact that, as some of our dining rooms are opening back up, there's still that percentage of residents that want their meals delivered or do want takeout. So, again, I guess go ahead.
So, as we look at reopening, and as Adam said, changing the way our dining rooms look, how do we get rid of the 4:30 lineup and everyone eating at one time, creating those new venues and spaces, opening up our outdoors, creating different configurations in the dining room to aesthetically create the social distance without having tables that are taped off or closed or do not sit here, or all the things we've seen in this rapid change. As we look into the future, how do we make those changes permanent, make them more desirable for people to want to enjoy those spaces, and make them comfortable? So we're doing that through semi-private spaces, creating pop-up restaurants, the physical changes that I've talked about. And a big one for those areas of the country that have 3 or 4 months or maybe 6 or 8 months a year where we can expand outdoors, I think will be a huge trend into the future.
We're going to talk a little bit about innovation and innovations that we've, developed during the pandemic, and innovation that's here to stay. And I think as many of you on the call watching right now would agree. I mean, during the pandemic, we've been more innovative than ever. When I look at innovation and sort of how that impacts the hospitality experience, I'll touch on a few here on the screen. Pop up to go. Really, we needed to establish a strong program for pop-up markets, as well as on the go, which is our takeout solution. So that was a definite need, and we needed the operating standards to go along with that. Below that is just some food concepts that really tie into Phillip's point on different dining venues, or adding dining venues to your community. Take and table, we just launched. Saw the need for really curbside service, a platform for family meals, special occasions, holidays, for residents to grab a complete meal, have some friends, family over. Small kitchen really ties into, this is really a culinary and design solution utilizing technology, sous vide technology, designing smaller kitchens, building labor efficiencies in a smaller space via technology. And then My Venue really is a menu solution for all the various dining venues that, Philip and I will talk about, in terms of a bar, in terms of a bistro, fast casual. Just we found the need as designs are picking up. We obviously needed a solution around menus. Philip?
Sure, and so to carry on that theme with technology, this pandemic has really given us an opportunity to reach out to some of our technology solutions that other sectors of our company have used or have been developed during this time, and decide which ones fit us long term. And so I want to talk about a couple of those. I'll start in the top right with food lockers. As Adam said earlier, to-go is here to stay. A certain percentage of our residents are always going to want that choice. And so how do we get rid of what we've been through the last year and into something that's more hospitable? So there are many different locker systems out there that keep hot food hot and cold food cold, with ease of use for residents to pick up those items either in a central location that may be flanked along the kitchen wall. It can be backloaded, or maybe there's multiple locker destinations on a larger campus that the dining staff delivers the food to a central point that's close to a group of residents, and they can pick them up there. We're reducing contact, we're reducing labor, and we're letting people have a better experience through the program. So we definitely see that as a part of our future. The next one is right below it, the 365-40 technology. Adam talked a little bit about pop-up market, and so we feel that's here to stay as well. How do we have fresh food and bottled beverage 24 hours a day for our associates, our residents, our visitors? And we're doing this through a technology called Pico Market, where people can engage with a cooler with a swipe of a credit card, their picture's taken, they scan themselves, and then they close the door and it relocks behind them. It also has all the temperature capabilities for food safety to ensure that we're not harming anyone by a power outage or a malfunction in the technology. So we see this as a great solution for us going forward to give people a different choice than maybe to go or a dining venue. And I'll move to the left to the robot you see there, which is Bear Robotics called Sally. We entered this space prior to the pandemic, and then obviously they all were shut down for a while, but they slowly came back. And the way they came back has really made us think about the future. So this is basically a Roomba vacuum for food service. It understands the room, it can follow you, it can go from point A to point B. So we were using it as a food runner, a busser, a server assistant to follow me to the table, a party of 6. When I couldn't carry all the food myself, the robot would follow me with the rest. It can follow me around and allow you to bus tables from the robot. But the unique solution that came out during the pandemic was a lot of our communities didn't want people coming in the community, and Amazon and to-go orders and all that picked up. So versus all those drivers coming into a table or an associate going outside to engage, the robot would go outside and they would put the item on the robot and they would bring it back into the front desk. So we see this as a solution for the future. It's not a staff replacement, it's a staff enhancement for us. How do we make the job easier for our members? And we're all in a very tough labor market, so there's always shifts that are unfilled, and we see this as a solution to help there as well. So continuing on with technology, robotics in food service. So whether it's the Sally salad machine or the fresh bake machine that does pizza, putting other types of lockers in your building to reduce contact, and then the whole frictionless technology. We really understand that people had to learn how to use technology during this pandemic, even if they didn't want to, because that's the only way they could communicate with their family, their loved ones, get medicine, other things that they needed. And so we have a broader base of people that are using technology. It may be limited, but they're on. And we know that the next generation of boomers moving in is going to come fully loaded with technology capabilities. So we're spending a lot of time in the frictionless space to understand how we can do more with less and give people what they want where they want it.
Yeah, and real quick, just to add to that, Phillip, from a back of the house technology solution standpoint, I mean, we're seeing more and more of, really looking at labor efficiencies. How can technology apply to that and support the teams in the back of the house? Things such as areas around taking human error out of HACCP management. What I mean by that is, Wi-Fi enabled thermometers for equipment, Bluetooth thermometers that sync up to a tablet computer in the kitchens. That just make it easy, keep that great HACCP record on in your files. Blast chillers, Phillip. I think about blast chillers popping up more and more.
Absolutely.
And then, one that we're seeing more and more in construction design is really eco-friendly hood systems. So, just seeing more and more technology make their way to the back of the house. And it's great to see, and it definitely helps with the overall, labor efficiencies.
Absolutely.
And as you've seen some of the photos, and Phillip talked about, that marketplace or market venue. Obviously, we recognize not everyone has the space to build that great marketplace. So one of the things in recognizing that was really developing a pop-up market for our communities that operates in a small space. So if you think about a 10 by 10 space, an 8-foot table. We've got the table cover that's branded for the pop-up market. Obviously, you see the totes, menus, backdrop that folds. You can place it on the table. So we definitely recognized, and again, I think this is a great example, Phillip, of just sort of what we've done from an innovation standpoint, recognizing small, medium, large communities, where there's space, where there isn't space, but still at the end of the day, providing that option for our residents and really delivering on the needs that we saw right, then and there, and obviously moving forward in the future.
And a little more on self-checkout technology. We've been using this device for a couple of years now. It's been around for a while. Has a large screen, has a big scanner. We've all been to the grocery store and been stuck with not getting our item to scan. It's a little embarrassing when there's a line. So when you think about a senior trying to experience this, we want to make sure it was the right solution. And we also understood that popping up another space or creating another retail environment might increase your labor, and people don't have a tolerance for that either at this time. So how could we give people options by using and leveraging technology? So we'll talk a little bit more about our self-checkout options that we're deploying. Retail is the future. Finally, real retail, I think, is going to make it to senior living, and it's going to stick. And I think we're going to try a lot of different shapes and sizes before we figure out what really makes sense and how do we reduce waste and create that abundant look that we want. So you've heard us say market quite a bit today. We have a lot of variations of market, and here's one that exists more in a break room type environment, but is co-shared with residents, associates, and family members alike. Again, it gives people another option for food when they want it, where they want it. It has some household items, and it is self-checkout as well. So we're seeing varying shapes and sizes of markets. We've created very small footprint markets with very minimal capital to try to help people create choice when they may not have the capital dollars to create physical new spaces. And with that, we see this as another great opportunity for lockers. So think about a market where you can go get a sandwich, a salad, and maybe pick up dinner. Or maybe you're picking up dinner and you want to get a beverage or a cup of coffee. How do we combine those? Maybe I'm an associate and I've scheduled and ordered my lunch for 2 o'clock today. And when I get there, I get it out of the locker, but I want to get a bag of chips and a candy bar and a Diet Coke. So all those things combined together make a great experience. And I think as we move into the future, we're seeing residents and associates engage in the same spaces, and that's going to be acceptable as we transition to the next generation. And I think people appreciate those that serve them, and it makes for great camaraderie and really keeps the space vibrant and relevant. The worst thing we can do is build these spaces and they be underutilized. And so when I talk about food waste and making it plentiful and abundant and feeling like retail, we have to have enough volume through it to make it work. And so we see this as another way to drive people to these spaces for something else. So continuing on that theme, here's another look at some markets in varying sizes, really trying to bring Main Street into senior living, small, large, compartmentalized. There's lots of ways of doing it. We've invested now as an organization in people who can do merchandising and marketing for us to help us make these spaces feel just like Main Street. You know, that's something in senior living we never had. We had marketing teams that created concepts and innovations and things for us to engage with our residents on. But when you think about retail, you're going to need that next level of support. And so we've definitely taken that step during the pandemic. So next, my favorite, since I do the design work, is the physical space. And so understanding that many of us have salad bars that are closed, buffets that can't be used. What do we do with these spaces? And so obviously capital is not available for everyone immediately, and we totally understand that. But we wanted to talk through, if it was, how we might do it. And our approach, and Adam's team's approach to not losing that transparency of food. And, you know, this is an actual buffet and an account we operate that was closed last March and is never going to reopen. But if you really look at this picture, you see things that aren't really great. And you think about residents going through this line and serving themselves with all the complications of trying to do so. But people held on to wanting to do that. They held on to wanting to see the items and point to them and pick them. And we didn't know if we'd ever get rid of buffets. So I'm personally very excited to know that buffets will probably be gone now in our space forever, and salad bars hopefully will, self-serve salad bars will hopefully be gone. And the 4:30 lineup will be gone, and we can really go to a restaurant experience, which is what is depicted here. So this is the exact same space you saw before. I'm gonna let Adam talk about how residents are gonna engage here and what it really means to us. But you're beginning to see spaces that feel a lot more inviting and a lot more transitionally pleasing from everyday life into senior living. And we're still going to bring the food out front. We're still going to create the show, and Adam's going to tell you a little bit about how.
Yeah, thanks, Phillip. I mean, this is a great picture. You know, it really is all about the experience. And what we've seen and experienced was, you know, as to Phillip's point, as you look at a food line where you typically maybe had a salad bar, soup well, you know, maybe some hot wells, etc. And it was really a buffet line. I mean, the beauty here is converting that to Phillip's point, really converting it to more of a la carte service line, sort of dual purposes. It could be, you know, it's the expedition line for the dining room in that space. It could be that there's a culinary theater that our chef is there producing the food. And then the most important part here is it really becomes a conversation. You know, the chef has the opportunity to engage with our residents, talk about ingredients, talk about the dish, can really speak to the ingredients in it. And to us, that's really about it, you know, really helps engage with our residents. So, you know, we really were able to take, you know, a tough situation of closing down a space that was fully served, self-served, and then now to a full service. It does a lot of great things. So, you know, just wanted to touch on that, Phillip.
Yeah, and before we go to the next one, you know, think about food waste. People definitely fill their plate with more than they can eat. And so this allows our culinarians to really engage and challenge people to try something new and explain what the sauce really is and give them a small portion to try. And it's just a much better hospitality-based approach to culinary and dining. And if they want to come up and walk by this and just see the food on their way to the table, that's great. Some people, especially as we transition into the boomers, may not want to come up and do this at all. They may want to order. But the components that are featured here will still be plated and prepared here. So we're still creating that magic out front. I think the worst thing we could do when buffets were closed is think about the kitchen wall again And we've all been to those restaurants that are a little dated and everything's behind the wall and you really don't know what happens until it's set down in front of you. We definitely don't want to do that to our seniors. We want to keep the magic out front. So as you look at the next space, many people have pubs and bars. Obviously, those have been closed as well. These spaces actually are the ones that are opening back up sooner because they're physically ready. So this was a space you could go and order and have a drink or a cup of coffee or read the paper, sit by the fire, and the food was prepared somewhere else. So this is one of those environments where it served a need because it was different than the dining room. It was physically different, but it really doesn't have any aesthetics beyond just a different space. And so as we look at either building new bars, pubs, second dining venues, if alcohol is not something you're going to serve, you can still create this experience around coffee and other beverages. We'll go to the next slide and show you this exact space and what it will be here in just a few months. And so now what we've done is open this up, tied it to the public space, brought a culinary component physically into the space. So the bartender here, the person behind the bar, has prepped flatbreads, casseroles, cinnamon rolls. The hearth oven do so much to allow us to serve a great experience, and it's aesthetically pleasing to look at. You see the two heat lamps there, so we could have a couple of features of the day that are just served in this space. So again, we're creating an environment around culinary and transparency and showing our residents the food is made to order, it is fresh, and allowing them to be part of the experience. So think about someone sitting here creating their own flatbread, and it's prepared right here in front of them and brought to their table. The entire process they were able to watch. Very, very different culturally based environment than before. So you'll hear me say it a lot as I do these, is transparency is so important. Bringing the magic of food to the front, however we can do it. It doesn't have to be expensive. There's lots of creative ways. But the guys and girls behind the wall really make it happen for us. It's beyond the physical table there. And so getting them on the other side of the wall and allowing everyone to engage and see the magic is really where I see the future going.
Yeah, and it's been great, just from a chef standpoint of, working with teams that are primarily, always in the back of the house. And as we see them come forward to the front of the house, there's obviously some hospitality training that's needed. But boy, I got to tell you, it's great to see, chefs out front and they really are shining. It's that opportunity, to Philip's point earlier, my point, again, just having a conversation around food is great. And it can be simple. This is a great example of a design where we've got some elements of equipment, some innovation. Earlier, I talked about sous vide. I mean, this space here would have an immersion circulator holding some of the product so that it's quick, easy. Wouldn't imagine, Philip, this menu's maybe a total of 8 items on the menu, but it's simple, easy to execute, and it's really about just the experience. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I'll also say, I called it a bar, but really this space in particular was a bar prior to the pandemic. When this opens here this summer, this is 3 meals a day. This is where you'll come get your coffee in the morning, you'll get your egg sandwich, your pastry, your breakfast flatbread, you can pop in at lunch and get a smoothie. So we've really made this, in the exact same square footage, a much more functional space, speaking to the future. And finishes are changing. We're seeing a lot of new finishes come into our space and things look a lot differently. And I know people see this picture and go, how are people going to sit at a high bar? This is a very active adult community with a lot of engagements with family. And so the high top communal feature there was designed to allow others to engage in the space that we're here to see family. So we've gone through this, pretty quickly, but I think that the final point is we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're just going to have a new mindset and do it differently. And how do we do everything possible physically, from a technology standpoint, from a culinary standpoint, back of the house and front of the house, to never have to close down again. You know, how do we better set ourselves up as we do renovations, as we build new buildings, as we integrate technology and solutions to ensure that we can have something like this happen again, hopefully not to this severity, and be able to give people more flexibility than they had this time. And so when you think about coolers that people interact with themselves, 24-hour spaces that people can engage with, those are all things that set us up for the future. So it's really not getting rid of the past, but looking at it very differently as we move into the future.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. But thank you so much. My name's Sadie from Morrison Living with business development. We're so, lucky to have Adam and Phillip on our team to look to the future and, what we learned from COVID and move forward. So thank you, Micah, too, for having us and letting us share what, we're excited about to be doing and innovating with Morrison Living.
Yeah, thanks again, Micah. Appreciate it.
Thank
Can
you.
you stop sharing, Miss Sadie? There we go. So that was really informative and beneficial. So what questions does anybody have before I start calling out or making my own questions? Does anybody have any questions about what they just said in regards to looking to the future of, dining? The dining experience has changed. I'm sure all of us have experienced that in our own communities. And I know they gave a lot of suggestions. What questions do any of you have in regards to this information? Wow, speechless, everybody. Come on now. Well, I guess, you mentioned that you had, you showed one of the pictures of, a high active community with the high bar stands. So what would it look like for one that's an assisted living that, has the frailty of wheelchairs, of, situations like that? How would you, adapt that or, refine it, I guess, for the future?
Sure. So as simple as dropping that down, and that's normally what we do. This just happens to be a very young, vibrant community, so it worked. But typically that would be at what I call roll-up height or sit-up height. And sometimes we do an intermediate chair. So it's just a step up, but not up onto a bar stool for safety. Obviously, as we get into the higher levels of living, we obviously want to stay away from that. But I think blending the experience and making things look similar is so important, as people will hopefully age in place and live in communities longer and want to join very actively, but age and not give up all the great things they had when they first joined the community.
Very true. Now with the mindset, of revamping and redefining, the dining experience, what are some things that you've seen in regards to the food that, you were showing this, the lineup of the buffet or the vending machines? How is that being implemented, and what kind of choices are you putting in those machines or in those variations to better serve the senior, but also provide, engagement and interaction with that?
Sure. So Compass Group, and I'll let Adam pick up after me, but Compass Group's done a great job of creating a brand of fresh food. So we have the ability to get fresh made salads, sandwiches, desserts, fruit cups, crudités, all these great things, and they come on our produce truck. So we get them fresh twice a week in most locations. And so those are the items we're putting in there for consistency, not only in ingredients, packaging, FDA labeling requirements, all of those standards met. And because we're able to get those on a more frequent basis, we're not creating waste. And I alluded to it earlier, the real magic here is allowing everyone to engage in these locations so that you can move product.
Yeah, and Phillip, just to kind of pick up on that, so, if there's a need to customize for our communities, our partners, as Phillip mentioned, would customize for us based on the community need, and then obviously our in-house culinarians would customize, in terms of offerings in those machines. So again, I think everyone that's been in senior living for a long time, it's really about finding that balance and customizing those solutions for your community, and we're still able to do that.
Well, another tidbit that I didn't mention earlier, we saw a lot of people during the height of the pandemic, single moms, dads, or maybe they weren't single, but picking up fresh food items like that on their way home, because it was one less risk you had to take stopping at a grocery store. And, you know, you've worked your 10-hour shift, you've got a child who's been homeschooled or otherwise, and it's just a really stressful time for people. So it was a great asset at a really good price. And it stopped people from having to have unnecessary contact when we were in the height of the scare.
And I think too, Philip, just, you know, thinking about the market solution and how that's kind of picked up, you know, over the past year, and we're seeing more and more of those build outs and needs for market solutions. I think it really is about something you just said around, you know, not just our residents, but our associates that are, you know, stopping at the store on the way home or the way to work and realizing now, you know, there's a solution in the community that has all of those needs, variety, and price point is, you know, if not same, better. And it just makes sense to get everything you need at the community and skip the need to stop on the way home and spend more time with family, because we know all of our associates are working longer hours. And it's just a value add.
So oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
So
we have some questions in the chat. Was that where you're going to?
yep, but go ahead.
Okay. So Cheryl Slavinsky asked, I'm curious what residents said when you took away the salad bar, and how do you serve enough people in the new concept?
So, you know, obviously just reopening. So I've converted a lot of salad bars in a, not makeshift, but an interim solution where I can get somebody behind the salad bar to build the salad for them. People are just excited they can still have choice. You know, you don't want the Cobb salad or the Caesar salad, or they want to go up and say, I want this, that, and the other. And I think as long as they can get that, they understand why they can't put their fingernail in the ranch to see if it tastes good, which those are the horrific stories I've seen for years that just, you know, people do. And another piece, and I just got to experience it in San Francisco last week, but we have a Sally the Robot salad machine. So our interim solution before we reopened dining was putting the salad vending machine in. So 2 hot proteins and your salad. And that's where I had lunch. I didn't want to bother our staff. They're busy. It's a big campus. And so I think as long as people still have choice and they can see it and they can engage with it, I think we're going to be fine. Even in some of the communities, I thought we would never get rid of that salad bar. But what I will say is, you know, 30 olives on your salad is probably excessive. I think the 6 or 8 that the Culinary puts on will get you by. And so think about over time our food waste.
I know.
It'll really be huge.
Yep, it's helpful. And just, you know, something to add to your point, Philip, and to the question was, you know, you may not have the salad robot, and that's perfectly fine. But you know, as you look at some of those, you know, basic salads that can be prepared fresh every day, a couple times a day, put into that grab and go cooler, and then now you look at that line that's been converted. What we've been seeing and doing more of as chefs is taking full advantage of that. And what I mean by it is, you know, actually making that dedicated space all around global salad stations, you know, global themed exhibition stations. So we have a theme, we're building those dishes to order or compose salads to order. And, you know, that has a nice theme by it, a great story, you know, really hits on all of the global flavors of that specific cuisine. And really it's telling that story, educating residents, associates around that particular dish. And then obviously to Philip's point, you're making it as it's being ordered. So from a food cost perspective, I mean, it's spot on.
Great answers. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the question.
And Julie Moore wanted to add to it a good way to keep their independence, and what's our thoughts on that, or what have we seen, I guess, from reactions?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and that's so huge, and that's why I was so adamant that we can't take the show back behind the wall, right? So people still want to get up and walk up to that Culinary theater and look at the lasagna and look at the meatloaf and see what the pork chop looks like, and just feel like they are still in control of one of their last rights, whether they're in independent living or memory care, is what you eat, right? So I'm hoping that by, instead of having it in a steam well for you to serve yourself, adding that culinarian to it, when they say, is the meatloaf spicy? Is the sauce sweet? And we can answer those questions versus you plopping it on your plate and then not liking it and either not eating it all or leaving dissatisfied. And I was thinking, flying the other day, you know, we read comment cards in the rear. So people didn't like their meal yesterday. Well, now, if we're engaging with them as they engage with what they want, we can fix it. So if it's too salty or too sweet, we can get you something else. And I think we have a great opportunity to engage hospitality in food in a different way and still give people their independence, because sitting down ordering from a menu isn't for everyone, especially those that didn't grow up that way.
Very true. Julie, did you want to add anything, or was that a good answer?
No, that was good. That was good. I like to listen to other people's views on the way I'm thinking to make sure I'm on the same wavelength.
Me too. Me too.
Julie also asked, I see the sort of snack areas in hotels. Are these similar?
Very similar, same concept. You know that most of the hotels, it rings a bell or something when you go in, so they see if you're putting something in your pocket. But you know what we're doing, that we're putting these near front desks sometimes, where a receptionist or someone who's answering the phone or greeting people, checking their temperature, all that stuff can engage. But our history and all the research we've done has really shown, believe it or not, people are less likely to steal being watched by a camera than someone is willing to allow them to steal physically standing there. So people see you in the grocery store stealing, and because of who you are, what you look like, all the things, they may let you get away with it. But if a camera's there, you're not getting away with it, right? So we've actually not seen shrinkage as being a problem, but they're very, very similar to the hotel markets we're seeing pop up everywhere.
And
Who would have thought?
Yeah, and I'll add to it too. It's a great way for not only residents, but employees to grab something quick. Phillip and Adam touched on this, but it's certainly an employee perk too, because they don't have to leave site to go get a drink, or even if it's a sundry, you know, it's on site and quick, and they're not leaving your location.
Right.
Wow, this is some good information for sure. Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask these two experts while they're here on the screen in a room near you?
That's right.
Nobody?
What's your favorite foods?
Mine is Italian, for sure. I'm not Italian, but I should have been, because that's really my go-to.
Favorite dish you like to make for yourself or residents?
My favorite dish to eat is chicken piccata. If the piccata sauce is made right, that's my favorite, because I still feel like I'm getting Italian without it being all carb driven. So I'm not a chef myself, but I've spent a lot of time, my whole career with them. So I've been fed well, and I've tried a lot of things. So, you know, Adam cooks all day. So sometimes we give him a hard time on calls. Can you go on mute? You know, we hear you clanging and banging. So he's always cooking, so he probably has a very different answer than mine.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on sort of, I don't know. I have my own trends, so it's about playing around with different ingredients and kind of going towards a certain theme for a month or two, and then diving into something else. Right now, I've been really doing a lot with Indian foods, and that has a lot to do with our oldest daughter, who's 20 years old, who, you know, wanted to try Indian food for the first time a couple months ago, loved it, and now guess what? Dad's cooking all kinds of Indian dishes. The one I've got nailed down pretty good is tikka masala and several different house jams.
Cool.
These, you know, so
I'm
it'll
making a
change
curry dish for dinner.
next month. So
Thanks.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions for these fine gentlemen and lady, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.